Hello everybody. Today I'm going to talk about SteamBox, SteamOS, and those related rumors. So first off, I'm going to talk about SteamOS. Basically, Valve decided that even though there's Windows and even though it's good enough, Windows 8 is evil and it's from the big bad Microsoft, and because it's got an app store, that's evil and competing with Steam. Despite the fact that nobody really uses it for games like they do Steam. So what did Valve decide to do? They decided, we'll make our own Linux. Now, they decided to make their own OS and just announced it. SteamOS. If you don't know what SteamOS is, it console-fies the PC even more than Steam in general did, to the point where most PC games release with Steam DRM. Nearly every PC game ever made is on Steam. And of course, let's not forget this, the fact that the 360 and stuff, the fact that Valve wants to try competing against the big stuff, even though Valve has nowhere near the money and that stuff needed to get in. I mean, look what happened when Microsoft made the original Xbox. They burnt millions and millions and millions on it. So the first thing I'd like to mention about SteamBox OS is, it's probably going to be restricted. Or you're not going to find that many apps. And like Wine, for example, everybody knows what Wine is. It's supposed to get your Windows programs running on Linux in an attempt to free you from usage of the big bad Microsoft. But the problem is, nothing works on Wine. Newer programs, they'll have issues. Newer games, especially. Newer software will have issues probably if it's not basic, but newer games, Black Ops 2. Like this game, for example. Everybody and their mom knows about it. It's played by tons of people on Steam. Doesn't work. Saints Row 3 doesn't work. In fact, Saints Row 2 didn't either. You've got many games which require you to remove GFWL or other things to get them to work. Many things will just interfere with the game working properly on Wine. And if you really want a game, there's nothing stopping you from getting a copy of Windows and just using that. Because let's be honest, everybody and their mom runs Windows. Nobody is going to use this SteamOS just to get, 5 more FPS? I mean, look at the TF2 Linux thing. Tons of people tried out TF2 on Linux. They were like, having so many issues, they only did it just to get a free Tux item, and they don't even use it anymore. So, and another thing, other games like Unreal Engine 3 games, those can have issues sometimes. You've got other games that use DirectX 11, they'll have issues. Newer version of Visual Studio will have issues. So if you use SteamOS, you already won't be able to play your games. Even if some big AAA developers, because they claim they've got a whole bunch of developers lined up, even if all these developers come and say, we're having SteamOS versions, is there anything that's telling you to just use that OS over Windows? There isn't really anything. There's a reason Windows is still so big. It's the OS everything is made for. Sure, you've got desktop apps, they're on Windows. Pretty much everything is only on Windows. Macs, these things never caught on because there's not as much software for them. And of course, there are even some games you can't even get on PC, like GTA 5. Not on PC yet. It probably will be ported eventually, but this game is not on your PC right now. You can only get it by playing a console. And that's the thing. SteamOS isn't going to bring any more games to the PC. It's just a throwaway Linux distribution that's a gimmick. And pretty much that. Designed for people who absolutely hate one operating system, but despite that keep using it anyway. And it's not just games. Tons of software is written for Windows only. Tons. Microsoft Office, that's going to be Windows only for a long time. Sure, you can run older versions in Linux via Wine, but let's be honest. If you're using Linux, it's not easy, and it's not going to be that good, really. Now, now, let me just mention something else. SteamBox. And now to talk about the SteamBox. The SteamBox is pretty much, well, it's going to be Valve's attempt at getting into the console market. Now, this is rumored, but it's been leaked all over the place, and it's pretty much, this is a rumor, so I don't know if this is real or just something, but considering the direction it's going, I honestly would not be surprised at all if it turns out to be legit. But now, let me talk about it. Honestly, I really don't see the point in it. First off, getting into the console market requires a ton of effort. Just take a look at the Ouya, that system that was supposed to change gaming and free it from the evil clutches of the big bad Microsoft, Sony, and all those other companies which require tons of fees to become a developer. Look where the Ouya is. Irrelevant. Nobody's talked about it. The only times it pops up is the occasional footnote when it's bombing because nobody gives a shit about it. And let's take a look at this thing. Everybody knows that, well, it's supposed to be a PC in a box. It's supposed to be like a console and a PC. First off, everything that people talk about how PC is the best thing ever and stuff, if Valve just makes a console, you wouldn't see that. Don't believe me? Take a look at this thing. The original Xbox. This was a big gaming system years ago, but it never gained the success of the PS2 because it cost more and it was Microsoft, and they lost millions of dollars on this thing before eventually getting it right with the 360. And even that had some reliability issues, but this thing right here, this is actually a PC in a box. And you know what? It was locked down. But then they went ahead and modded it. This thing got hacked heavily. And you know what that led to? Piracy. Sure, it was kind of locked down, but it got hacked, and next thing you know, everybody and their mommy was just pirating games on this. There were homebrew for it too, but that was all for emulators. And let's be honest here. What can SteamBox do that your 360 couldn't do? Sure, it'll be made by Valve, and sure, it'll be more open. Guess what? It'll probably be loaded with more DRM than the Xbox One. Valve has already proven they're capable of banning your account and making you lose all your games. Many times. What makes them think that if you get a SteamBox and something happens and you get banned, you're not going to lose all those downloaded games you paid for? It's just as bad as the Xbox One originally was. Except Microsoft listened and later changed the Xbox One so it can do disc and the digital. Steam since day one has been massive DRM. You can't even buy a PC game anymore without it having Steam DRM loaded in it. Where you have to install Steam, load that up every time you launch a game, and the only way to get past that is to use a crack. And then you won't get access to online. Let's be honest here. Steam is just as bad as every other DRM. Except the only reason people forget about it is because of free-to-play games and sales. The IM client's not even that good on Steam, but Steam is somehow popular for IM clients too. And let's be honest, see, somebody just sent me a message on Steam. Don't know if you could hear that, but that was the sound. And of course, another thing about the SteamBox is, if the UI is anything like, well, if the user interface is anything like Big Picture, it's clunky as hell. Seriously. All I've seen from SteamBox is that Valve doesn't have the resources to pull it off. And I really doubt they could. Look at the Ouya. Look at the 3DO. They said they'll be able to license it. Look what happened to the 3DO. And the Pippin. Both systems about licensing stuff. Look what happened to Sega. Look what happened to Atari. Look what happened to all those companies. They couldn't compete. They either had to pull out like Sega did, or 3DO did, or waste the company and drive it to the ground like what happened with Atari. Driven in the ground. Ouya, that thing's already floppy. And look at the Wii U. That thing's already flopping too. Sales numbers aren't gonna lie, that thing's doing terribly worldwide. Even the Wii's like selling about the same rate we're outselling, and that thing's old, and the fad for that died out. All in all, the SteamBox just isn't going to be that good. And if you think it won't be locked down, just take a look at why this was locked down. Sure, you can say it's because it was Microsoft, but look at the PS4 and Xbox One. They're not, one of them's not Microsoft, and that's locked down. It's not going to be a PC, it's going to be a console. And trust me, you're never going to get the openness of a PC on a console. Sure, there's Android, but look at how newer PC games are more and more restrictive. And let's not forget the best thing ever. How Android's marketplace is a load of crap. Flooded with shovelware. Greenlight, same thing. Look at how Freedom Planet got greenlit. All in all, the SteamBox is going to be a waste of a console and just pure hype in my opinion. I wouldn't buy it and I'd save my money. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more.